in Cancun.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the first girls trip?
No, we've done another one before 2 years ago. It was our first trip to go as well with another friend, and she took her daughter as well and her sister.
Is anybody meeting you guys over there?
No, it's we have a friend that's called his Nestor, but literally, Christina, I honestly know Cancun like the back of my hand because I've gone every year. Like out there, we would be there every year, and we always rent a car. We drive around everywhere from Cancun to Playa to Merida and then to Bacalar. So it's like, I know my way around there.
When I went to Cancun, I can't say I loved it. But
Did you stay Cancun?
Yes.
That's why.
Gotta
Playa,
go
yes, you gotta go down to Playa.
That's where we were supposed to go, but somebody was too hungover to go.
No, to stay is in Playa. Cancun is too Americanized for my opinion. And everything's so far away. All the hotels, you have to walk, and then, no, you need to go down to...
My favorite things that we did was the cenote.
Oh, yes. The cenotes are one of...
Stuff.
Yes. But you truly need to go on and experience
the water was
more.
Beautiful, though.
Yes. And then to go... Did you guys end up going to Isla Mujeres?
We did.
And then Cozumel, did you end up going over there?
Tampoco.
Okay, see, Cozumel, then you have to go to what it's called, El Cielo. It's literally like you're in the sky.
Yeah?
Yes, you could get off and knee deep and you see starfish.
Oh my God.
And the water's so turquoise.
Really?
But this is blue that's not even, I couldn't even explain it to you. Not even the pictures make it justice.
Oh my God, dig your feet so far in the sand for me.
Yes, it's so beautiful. And that's where, we'd always take Sophie. Even Diego, for ever since they were small, me and Tony only traveled twice by ourselves without them. The first time to Cancun when we had our honeymoon, and the second time to Mexico City. So we always did a thing. We always left in June for 10 days to Playa. And then in October, we would go for 4 days to Mexico City.
10 days, that's a nice reset.
But it's exactly, it's nothing pushed. Everything's relaxed, enjoyable, where you don't have to be stressing. And I feel that's where exactly everything came with Sophia, because you started teaching her the value of being together as a family, enjoying herself, just letting her be kids, and more than anything, spending time with them at all costs. We wouldn't go out party or do any of that stuff.
And that's such a form of self-care.
Yes. And you're there relaxing and enjoying every step of the moment. So there's not one thing I don't regret, because I truly enjoyed Sophia. The only part that I didn't was because when I had to work. Mm-hmm. But other than that, and like I tell you, it's we've always put God first in our life. And the way she's growing up, and to see her, especially this past weekend when she was in Houston doing the High Rocks.
Mm-hmm. How did she do?
She did amazing. And it's something that you see, and you see it's God in her. It's God, because she's been putting God in. Just moving her. She could be out there drinking and everything and just having another type of lifestyle, because at her age, usually that's what they do. They're out partying, having fun, but I feel in your 20s is when you build everything that you want. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have that. It's not my parents' fault or anything. It's just that I never got taught that, in a sense. Mm-hmm. But if it wasn't for Sophia, if I wouldn't have had her, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now.
Definitely.
So for me, it was meant to have Sophia when I was going to be 21.
Right. Yeah, God's timing is everything.
Yes. And she's the one that's pushed me ever since. And I still remember the first time that my parents took her, because I couldn't go because I had to stay back and work. They took her to Puerto Peñasco, and she was there and I couldn't go, but I know she's always had that foundation where she's never missed love. She's never had where they could say nobody was ever there for her.
Yeah.
So her sperm donor, what's it called, he's never been there. But my dad stepped up to a plate, and then my husband stepped up to a plate. And I feel every time, I was even crying, I think yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. I know, even in the morning when I was crying, because I was talking to Tony, where she told me, it's Mom, I hope God allows you to be here more times so I could be there for you and give back everything you do.
No, did she really?
So those are the things that you see. That's from God. It's God always talking to me and reminding me, no matter what you're going through.
Sophie, she's such a heart, a sweetheart. She's just
and
she reminds me of my
her
older daughter.
You see her hearts, exactly. They're pure. They have no malice in them. They don't care about talking about anybody bad. They don't care. They're just simply being them. And I feel that exactly what you were telling me right now, your story about how you prayed over your daughters and everything.
Yeah.
You know, that's exactly what I would do with Sophia was small. Just pray over her and say, God, just continue to put her in the right path, because it was me fighting sometimes with her friends, or she was hurting because her friends would be mean to her because of a kind heart.
Yeah, behind your back, I wouldn't tell you. And
Yes,
just
even
deal
through
with it by
college, there's
herself.
a lot of things that I didn't know because she didn't want to say. But there's moments she would cry herself to sleep. She felt by herself. She went through a whole depression. Because soccer was hard on her, and but she never lost her faith. And I feel like God pushed her through every single thing that she thought she couldn't make. And I continue to tell her, everything that you've done, yes, I've helped you. And, I showed you certain things, but at the end of the day, it's been your choices. It's been her that's followed God throughout this time. And it's not easy.
And then especially having girls, I'm going to just come up with
I feel for you, is it harder to have a girl compared to Paxton?
No, I feel like my son's been my biggest struggle. But it's been harder for the girls because of the girls' relationship, not like with other people, but within like them, between number 3 and number 4. You know how they're just constantly fighting. So not so much them like having issues at school, because at school, that's the thing. They're all star kids. They're all A students. They're all athletic. Like the Jordans are known because of their athleticism. Amelia's just little. She's barely in school.
I know.
But she does good in school as well. She does good with other kids, but with each other, it's like they're constantly fighting for my attention. And since I do work a lot, it is like, I feel like survival for the fittest. They're like, oh, I got mom gave you an extra hug. Oh, you gave him an extra kiss, or, and they do count the kisses and they do count the extras. So I have to be very conscientious that I'm spreading my love all across. If I give any such kisses, I better go and give everybody 2 kisses all across the board, because I promise you, everybody's paying attention to.
That's true. And I
love
have
that I'm giving.
And see, Sophia's always been an only child. And even being an only child, honestly, she's been very beyond blessed to have everything in her life. And even that I see her now, she's not spoiled, or she's not where she wants her way. I've seen so many kids, and being an only child, I feel a lot of times it affects them. And it did affect her because she didn't have anybody like your kids. And that's why I feel your kids, at one day, they're going to realize how important it is to have each other. But you giving them love to each other has to be exactly like you say. If it's 2 kisses, it's 2 kisses to each.
Which you don't, when you become a mom, you don't think that.
No.
You don't, or a parent, you don't think like that they're watching things like that, but that they are, And so, yeah, like prayer, as far as like for me and my girls, I know that it's super important. Like I shared with you right now, I got a little emotional, started crying, but because like it's just those moments that when we know that they're battling with things, and like we can't do nothing. There's only so much we can do in the flesh, And so like in that moment, like God really did instruct me, like pray over them, like right over their feet, like get down on your hands and knees. And that's what I did. I felt convicted. Like, I was just like, I looked at him and I saw like the way that one daughter turned to the other side and the other one turned to the other side. And then it broke my heart. And then, God was like, pray, do something about it. Like get down on your hands and knees. And so I got down on my hands and knees and I just began to pray over them and like speak the word over them. And then I, put my hands like into the sheets and I started praying over their feet. And then I felt even more convicted to stand up and get up on the bed and crawl on the bed, and pray over their heads. And I was just like praying over them, like what was in my heart. And I just let it go in that moment. And then the next morning, which was yesterday, they woke up peaceful. And I was, just like, just grateful yesterday that it was peaceful because it was Monday, it's the first news day. Yes. But then today again, they woke up peaceful and they woke up different. And then when they went to sleep yesterday, hugging each other, like in each other's arms. And when I like closed the door, I walked out and I just kind of like leaned against the wall and just like, when you breathe out like really heavy, like just grateful because that's God moving, and there's only so much we can do sometimes in the flesh. And sometimes we just have to deliver them to God and say, hey, this is your child, not mine. Do your will, not mine. And God delivers.
He truly does. And it's all in his timing. I feel we feel it as parents, especially mom, especially because I feel like you have to truly try to understand your kids. And I feel you do that a lot. And you don't reprimand them, right? Or yell at them or tell them, you try to talk to them and make them understand the importance of it and explain it to them. Because I feel a lot of parents don't do that anymore. They don't have that connection with the kids.
It's a my way or the highway,
yes.
or
there's like
or
no,
they just don't care.
They just say no and that's it. Or, they just don't pay attention. And I feel that's why a lot of kids are suffering right now. And I truly feel like your kids have it harder than Sophia. As the years pass by, it gets harder for kids, especially in school.
Definitely.
Like we were talking about, that you're fighting a battle every single time when they get back home. Why? Because their friends have a very different way of thinking, their parents, their upbringing. And it's very hard because they want to do what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, and that's what I get. Well, so-and-so, and I'm like, well, I'm not so-and-so's parent, and I will pray for so-and-so and their parent because it's wrong, whatever they're doing, And so that's one thing I don't have a hard time is like, I don't want to say be the villain, but I don't have a hard time delivering the bad news of no, you can't go out. No, you can't go with your friends. No, but at the same time, I don't take away that opportunity for them to express themselves. And back then I know it was like, and that's how I had it. Like it was a my way or the highway. Yes. And me and my brothers were little soldiers, and we just, our parents would just look at us and, my kids, they like, not that they like to argue, but they sometimes have valid points of views. Mm-hmm. And, not that I'm wrong or they're wrong, but I do take the opportunity to just listen. And that's something that bothers like my mom, for instance, like, why do you let them do that? And for me personally, I'm like, what if I have an attorney on my hands and I'm telling her to be quiet? What if I have a doctor on my hands and I'm not allowing her to understand how to clean up the wound because, I just don't want to make a mess. So I'm like, no, just let me do it instead of here, you figure it out so that you could feel the cloth that you're going to clean yourself with and the solution, you know what I mean? And because they're afraid. I remember having like a cut or something and I'm not having the opportunity. Like, no, let me just do it. And I wanted to. I was independent. So Amelia reminds me of me. Anissa reminds me of me, and Riley. All my girls are just strong. They're level-headed. So I give them the opportunity to learn and make their mistakes. And then, but I do always say, hey, I'm going to tell you X, Y, and Z. And you should just listen the first time because after you have to hear it the second time, typically it comes true. Like, no hagas eso porque te vas a caer.
And then it happens.
And then you don't listen, so you fall. But I do make a sound approach of whatever it is the warning is, but hey, the repercussion is X, Y, and Z.
But it's at the end of the day, you allow them to make that choice because it's something happens. And you have to allow them because I feel a lot of times our parents didn't allow us to do certain things and that made us even want to do them more.
Ooh.
It's like it was like
juicy.
You're not gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
And so I was one of those kids. I was one of those girls.
I was one of those.
I'm not proud of it, but hey, that's my reality. My reality was my parents tried to be ultra strict with me, so that made me ultra snaky. Mm-hmm. And then in turn, it made me do some ultra crazy decisions, But I do see the opposite effect, like with my kids, when I let them make their mistake, and then they're like, "Mom, you were right," instead of like sit there and stopping them and like because then I feel like our relationship would be a lot more strained. Yeah.
It would, and then you don't sit there and tell them, "I told you so. You should have not done it." Just like throwing it back to them, And I feel that's a lot of times my parents because I remember. Well, I wouldn't be sneaky. I would be very upfront, but for that, I would get so in trouble. I would even get slapped.
Yeah, because
I would talk back, but because I would stand up for what I believed in. Especially there was one time I remember I had told my dad, he's like, "Where are you going?" "I'm going to go race a car." It's like, "No, you're not." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm telling you." He's like, "Well, you better not come back with the number." I'm like, "Okay, I'm telling you where I'm going to go." So I did it, And he's like, "Why did I tell him?" Like, but I was being honest with you. I'm telling you, I'm not out there drinking. I'm not doing anything. That's what I would like to do, like race. Mm-hmm. Or he didn't allow me to have guy friends.
Yes. I never took you for a racer.
Oh my God. I would sneak away from the house to go ride horses with one of the neighbors. And my mom didn't know. She was like, I told her, I'm going to go ride a bike. So that's what I was doing.
She was
Right?
actually...
Until the lady, it was funny because the man's wife saw my mom at the store. Like, oh, I told my husband, and I'd be telling my pizza to Larry to get in that horse. And this and then I was like, horse? What are you talking about? Like, yeah, they come every single day to ride horses. I
totally relate to you.
Yes, and I would be in quads.
And did you get in trouble for riding the horse?
Yes, but my grandpa used to have like a big farm. So when his friends would come in back then in the day, over the Chaparral when he used to have it, they would come in horses. So they would go and talk to my grandpa, and I taught myself how to ride a horse on my own. My dad would hate that. Do that. Yes, well, because I've always... My grandpa...
Imagine if you had somebody that taught you, though.
Exactly. And then my dad didn't allow me to do it anymore because that's when that Superman fell off his horse or whatever. So Keanu Reeves, or I don't know his name.
Keanu Reeves?
Yeah, that he fell off the horse. And he's like, he was going to buy me a horse. And he's like, no more. So he stopped that dream for me, And also, he didn't allow me to go to the army when I wanted. And I stayed back. But at the end of the day, I tell you, and that's why I allowed myself to tell Sophia, you follow your dreams. You're not going to be who I want you to be.
That's so powerful because it's like, that's the beauty of having faith in God, because you're going to be whatever God wants you to be and not what I want you to be. But you have to be bold enough, even as a parent, to just let your ideology of whatever it is that you see go, and then just be there to be the soil and the sun and the water and the elements to see your fruit grow.
Yeah, well, especially because my dad was machista. Like, he was one of those men that women can't. Because I would remember I would cry that I wanted to go work with him. I would cry.
No, women have to be in the kitchen.
Yes.
En la cocina con tu mamá.
Exactly. It's like I had no business going with him. And it was crazy because he would take my brothers, and, especially one of them. But then later on in life, I don't know how it turned out, but I ended up working for him. But I learned that I would get up earlier so he wouldn't have to be there. I started doing a lot of these, and he finally allowed me to take over so he could go on vacation, because he would never go on vacation because he needed to be there. So he trusted me to do that. And that's one of the things that I taught Sophia, is like, you could do whatever. And now what's crazy is that I remodel homes now. And when I was getting dirty, I remember...
just love that so much, because life, what you wanted to make of me, and then what I made
I
of
wanted
myself,
to be
God
in
made
the construction,
of me, actually,
and he didn't want me to. So I just think back, it's like, imagine if he would have allowed me to work with him, what I would have known, like when my brothers know.
Multi-million-dollar business.
Yes, but he didn't allow me. And now that I did that, when he started seeing me, because I would be on the ground working, everything. And when he saw me, he was angry. He's like, why is Tony allowing her to do that? And I'm like, it's not Tony. I'm allowing myself, because if I want to learn the business, I have to learn it from the bottom. I'm not going to be there sitting and telling him what to do.
I love that, because you also take that same strategy in parenting.
Yes.
And you say, hey, look, if I'm going to ask Sophie to do something, I'm going to do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sophie's honestly like a replicate. She copy and paste. She's such a beautiful heart, like both of you. And I thank you for being on my table. But yeah, so you take that same strategy with business, and you did the same thing in parenting. And that's why now you have, look at your business. Look at the businesses flourishing, and they have been for years now. And same thing with Sophie, like even when she went through her little, her era when she was finding herself, I remember you crying, and I remember you just praying for her, and you're just like, she was going through it. And instead of putting bitterness in her heart, I remember you just speaking life, and she was just going through it, and you just let her figure it out. And of course, you were there for her. But I love the way that you just speak up and stand up for your
because I don't feel we
convictions.
should judge them, or even, I could, there's one instance that I remember when she was in college, when she met her boyfriend, and she called me and said, hey, Mom, I've been thinking about maybe moving into Rodrigo. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to sit here and tell you yes or no. It's completely up to you. You're grown. If you want to go. The only thing that I wouldn't, because I want you to continue to have your space, and being with somebody 24/7 is very different. He's like, but I'm like, if you want that, I respect that. And, you'll have my support, especially being in college. And she made that decision to go live with him. And, everything, the first year was good, but then the second year, there's problems because of the age difference. He was already graduated. He was older than her. But not a lot, a couple of years. But, she still had a lot of things to do. She didn't have a lot of time. And they ended up breaking up. And now when she called me, not once did I question her or I said, I told you so. I'm just like, okay, what do we need to do? Like, no, I need to move out. So,
That's the part that I remember
do you
so
remember?
vividly, that you were like, I have to move her apartment out. We're going to do everything right so we can get her deposit. I'm going to go and help her.
Yes.
And you were just supportive and you just showed up.
Yeah, exactly. With no questions or nothing. I just was there to, hug her, kiss her, and tell her everything's going to be okay. And you know what? She ended up moving. I wasn't there in time. She ended up moving herself out of that apartment. She moved everything. She rented a U-Haul.
To show you how resilient
yes,
you made
and
you feel
and she was there. Like, she's like, no, mom, we're not going to waste on a bedroom because I'm going to end up moving to San Antonio in a couple of months after I graduate. And to this day, not once do I ever tell her, do you regret it, or that was the biggest mistake. No, if anything, I feel she had to go through that and realize now that what she wants, and it's not easy to be living with somebody. And not having a mom that's going to be nagging on her and tell her, like, this or that, But I was hard on her when she first went into college. I didn't allow her to take her truck the first semester because I wanted her to realize how important it is to have a car, be out there with nothing out there, so she won't be in, because it was the first time going out there.
Strategic.
And she was going to go out drinking and having fun, which I'm not scared of any of that side. It's part of the growing part. But she needed to figure things out on her own, because ever since she left, I respected her as an adult. The only thing that I asked her is, like, you're in college, you have no reason to fail. You don't need to work, you have my support. And if you end up failing, then you just come back, but you're not going to have anything. You're going to have to work hard for it, And I feel it was a valid thing because she had no reason. She had everything going for her. Mm-hmm. Unless I did it. But I never pushed her, you have to go to college. I just told her it's whatever you want. And her dream was to go to college and play soccer. And she did it. She had the scholarship to go for 4 years. But ever since she left, I've allowed her to be herself. And even to this day, when she left to San Antonio, she didn't want to come back home. She already knew what she wanted. And like you've heard my story, like that I told you, she changed her life once again. She's completely working out. She did the High Rocks past weekend.
And I saw the videos. And the friend. I love how you're so connected, even with the friend. Know that you feel you're so welcoming that even her friends.
Oh yeah, with all her friends, and now she's ready to do it again. I think in November in Dallas. Yes. Yes. But, and that's where you say, like, everything that you went through, like your hardships right now, you're going through your kids and everything's come back. It's not that easy and it takes time, but you will see it. You will eventually see it, because I am the proof with Sophia that I kept pushing, and I told her. And at the end of the day, if things don't go your way, you just have to remember that you tried your best, because we don't have a manual to be moms.
Yeah, moms or dads or parents. Yeah, and sometimes, there's like siblings raising siblings, and there's no manual to show you how to let one be.
Exactly.
So I always just say, take it back to your faith. And like, even when if it's just like not what you believe, but maybe just pray over them.
And I feel it's hard for you too, because your parents always get in between, right? You're teaching your kids how.
Yes,
that's how my mom. Even to this day, my parents are like, "Oh, you're gonna let her go. She's doing this. Something could happen to her."
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
And living in fear, and most important, I don't want them to live in fear, and so not even in submissiveness, in the sense that they feel like they have to quiet their voice for any sense, even against me. Exactly. Even though I'm their mom, but I have just humble enough to know that I can be wrong. Mm-hmm. And that I can say sorry, and that I can, because it costs nothing. It costs nothing. And it repairs everything.
Yes.
Like even our DNA, it repairs our DNA. An apology from our parents. I was telling you about this about my mom. She's a little bit old school. She's old school in the sense that they, their parents didn't give them a lot of love or express a lot of love to them, whether it was the mom, the dad, whatever. But there was one parent that left enough significant damage. Yes. And that. They pass it on to their kids. And so I love my mom, God bless her, but sometimes she tries to love me hard. And I'm like, no, that's not the way I want to be loved. I know how I want to be loved, and I know how God loves me. So if I'm loving you, I expect the same way. So I sent her a message. We got into a little discussion, and then I tell her afterwards, because I love her. Of course, I just sent her a message, and I said, I love you. And you know what I mean? Just to say, hey, all BS aside, nothing else matters. That's why I didn't say, even though X, Y, and Z, all I said was, I love you, because that was the only point I needed to get across. Mm-hmm. My mom.
She took it.
She left me on red first, right? It leaves me red, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna wait how long this goes. And then she sends me later a little red heart.
Oh, she did?
No, girl, just a heart. Literally just a heart. And so that, I don't want to say that it offended me, but I was just like, would you look at that? Would you have so much pride that you would not say I love you back because of the discussion we had?
It is because they're very prideful.
And so I didn't, instead of putting anything or how I felt on message, I didn't, because I didn't want that message to be there and have it. So I just dealt with what I needed to deal with. And then later when I had her in front of me, I say, hey, is that, I say, hey, grosera, which is, how do you say grosera in English? Like, hey, rude girl.
Yes.
I was like, who raised you? You knowing darn well who raised her. Luis Tovad, rest in peace, my grandfather, because he was a macho. And I'm like, who raised you? Is that really how you respond to somebody who tells you that I love you, especially that person being your child? And she was like, oh, well, I sent a heart, and it kind of like, the way she said it. And I was just like, if somebody tells you I love you, especially your child, you say I love you back, because that's like a manipulation thing. And it's like a control thing. And I don't want to be loved like that. You're my mom. Say I love you back, know? And so she kind of was taken back. She was like, oh, mija, I didn't mean nothing about it. I'm sorry. I love you. But, it made her feel uncomfortable in the moment that I called her out. But at that point, she had no option. Like, she's actually calling, look it. How funny. Mama.
Moms are like that. My mom's
so funny.
Very
called.
They're very prideful.
And so, you know what? At the end of the day, I love her regardless.
And we have to respect who they are. We can't change who they are. We just need to know how to go around how they are, to avoid any situation with them. That's what I do with my mom.
I love her regardless because I just try to understand when I look at her.
Where they come from.
Yeah, I'm like, what happened here? Why? Or well, not just her, anybody. My dad, my kids. Like, I always try to really, what happened? Why are you acting the way you're acting? I'm really trying to dissect. And so she's a product of how she was parented. And when I go back and I look at that and the level of abuse that she endured as a child immediately, from the moment she was born, to adulthood, with having a macho dad, and and how that affected everybody, not just her, but all of the siblings.
Yes.
And how it just changed them for the rest of their lives,
It truly does.
But going back to hey, that's why I can't hold it against you. So I'm just going to meet people where they are and love them regardless. And, and sometimes that means boundaries too. Like, I could love you, but I can love you from a distance. I don't have to love you up close because, we don't have to deal with the way people act sometimes, whoever it may be. But because those generational curses run so deep, they affect families as a whole. And especially when we don't think that they're going to affect us. And, I had gone through that thing with my son recently, and, and that was hard. But everybody said, hey, you do a lot, let him fly, give him his choice, and he'll come back. And so that's exactly what I did. Was it easy? No. But I said, hey, you know what? I do so much for you that you're not going to treat me like this. I'm your mom. I'm not your friend. And I'm not just, somebody who comes and pays all your bills. And so, anyway, I didn't see or talk to him for a few weeks, because that's how he wanted it. And so I had to step aside and continue. I just delivered him to the Lord. I said, Lord, let your son and my son, you do your will. And so anyway, a few weeks later, he's like, hey, Mom, can you? Yeah. And I'm like, yes, of course. But yeah, that was a breakthrough in itself, because I didn't think he was capable of I thought he was trading me in for a girlfriend.
That's he was
trading me in for a girlfriend.
That's the age.
Oh, I'm going to just be with my dad because you don't let me go to the park, because that's where they were meaning to go, be a boyfriend and girlfriend. And I was just like, you're too young to do all that. Period.
Because you're the
I
hard
don't mind
one.
being. That's why I said I don't mind not. I don't call it a villain, but I'm the disciplinary. I don't. That's bad news, Jude. I don't care if you have a girlfriend. You can't go to the park. Are you kidding? Not that I don't care. You can't have a girlfriend. Matter of fact.
No, it's not the age, and you sit there and you still stand by what you.
Yeah, and I was like, nope.
Even though he told you, I don't want to go with you, you still stuck by your guns. And that's when it made him come back.
And the phase gone. He's over the phase. He's like, no, I don't want to have a girlfriend no more, Mom. And I'm like, wow, So right now in the workout phase, him and I were working out together. And so that's how we're spending time together. And so,
Yeah, I remember even your post with your son, having your date and everything. And I feel that helps them a lot more too.
Definitely.
And that's exactly what we're talking about. Like, you need to have that time with each of your kids so they can know they're both loved, like each one of them.
Just loved.
Yes.
Got your back. Let's not talk about nothing. You be you. Let me just.
And if you want to talk, I'm going to be here. If you want to say something, but if not, we're just going to have that time because I feel like every kid needs their time, every single one of them. But sometimes, like, you can't give the same attention for all four at the same time.
Yeah. Even when I'm purchasing things, I'm like, okay, you right now, and then you, and then you. I'm like going down the line, but I'm like not just solamente.
But you're fair.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I never had when I was growing up with my sister and my other two brothers. I was like the middle child, and I would always get in trouble.
As middle children, it's because we're strong-willed. They used to find me on the roof when I'm like, you guys are gonna leave it to Juarez and not feed us, but I'm gonna eat this ice cream on the roof, and they'd pull up in my dad's little lowrider, and Christina, get off the roof, and I'd be like, come get me. You don't want to be here. When we were here after school and food, I'm gonna be on here in the roof, and my tias, my grandma, Christina, get off, and I would just be kicking my feet until my dad would come out with the bell, and I was like, okay, time to not fool around no more than I knew it was. But I didn't mind the bell. I was like, okay, but I was afraid of nothing, and so that's what I want my kids to do is like, I don't want them to be afraid of nothing, including me. I don't want you to be afraid of me. And I don't want to project my fears on them.
Because you always want to have that relationship with them, regardless of what the situation is, that they're able to come to you and tell you. And that's the relationship that I built with Sophia, that no matter what or how bad it is, you come talk to me because nobody's ever going to give you the advice or be there. And I feel that's what you need to build with them.
And I love that.
And I don't have that with my mom.
We all needed to hear this message today because, it's been hard. Like, parenting is really hard. But, it's just the baby steps. And then when we go back and we look at it, it's like all the little things that are going to matter, that mount up to the big things. And
I feel you need to build all of this with your kids. So when they're out of the house by 18, how you see a lot of parents right now, and I've seen it a lot with the kids that go back and munch on the parent. The parents are super old, the kids are young, they're not working, they go back and live with their parents, they take money from them, and they still give them a lot of problems because they're still drinking,
Those are the same parents que les quitan las responsibilities, they're afraid to deliver bad news.
But you don't want that. Like right now, like I could tell you, I'm very happy and, and appreciate everything Sophia's doing because I don't need to worry about her. I know she's doing good. I know she's making the right decisions. I don't need to worry about that. And there's a lot about parents right now with the 20-something years old, they weren't getting out drunk, on drugs, not working, still living at home. They don't know what they want to do. They're not doing nothing. And you see it more every day because you as a business owner see how people don't want to work. Yeah. They don't want to go out there and try anything.
No, and then it's the consistency, and part of consistency is routine. So like my number 3 hasn't been going with like her dad's side recently. And even my boyfriend was like, she's been wanting to come with us more, like a lot more. And I'm like, that's because of our routine. Like, even though you think that gets really annoyed that we're nagging and stuff, like she loves our routine, that we wake up early, that we come home and the shoes are at the door, and that everybody get your clothes off so that I can wash it immediately and things are found and they can go into their drawers and they can find their things, and that, kids want discipline, kids want structure, even though sometimes they act out, but they want discipline, they want routine, and then they see the importance of how it affects them during the day at school. Going dressed appropriately, how they're confident, or, the uniforms maybe not being washed opposed to being washed, or, so like being groomed to not being groomed. It's like the details, and I'm trying to nitpick on the details and not like the big things like, oh, you gave me attitude. No, you can give me attitude as long as you're sweeping. Go ahead and you have your opinion. I'm going to let you voice your opinion, but you're still sweeping, you're still mopping, you're still putting away your clothes. I don't care. The goal is that you're going to get it done regardless.
But you're setting up for the future. Once they leave, they're going to do that. That's exactly how Sophia's doing things, And even if you realize it, maybe they don't do the things at the house, but when you take them to other homes, you see them picking them up. You see them being polite. Yes. So that's where you start seeing that everything that you're doing at home, it is showing.
Yeah, a lot of the business, and that's actually what we went back to, is I'm like, a lot of this goes back to with our employees. I was like, hey, a lot of this stuff with the employees, it goes back to house training. None of them have had enough house training because they're a part of a generation of parents who were absent. They got raised by grandma and grandpa. Those parents were out partying and drinking, and these kids had no house training because what grandma and grandpa were cleaning up after them, we're cooking after them, and then they don't know what to do. They don't know how to they don't know how to wash a cup. They don't know how to put in a load, and all of that. But that generation of grandparents, they got it really bad. Like they were cleaning at 6 years old. They were cooking at 6 years old. They were, so like it makes you think like what happened? Where did it go wrong? But I think a lot of it is that routine. They came from parents who woke up at 4:30 in the morning to cook for all of the 12 kids and make frijoles and so a lot of it was a lot of it is house training.
It really is.
The way, like so. And then that goes back to how they want to go and how they want to work.
And even when they go start working, where they're not, because a lot of things that I see nowadays, it's a lack of common sense. There's a lot of kids that don't have any more common sense.
Common sense is
I'm like, how could you go and work and you literally don't know what to do? Like nothing, like you don't have no initiative for anything. And I feel that's what the problem is that I have nowadays too, when I get workers. Like if I don't tell them exactly what to do, they don't. If I tell them, hey, you need to do
no se acomiden.
No, they
Eso
don't.
es lo que se enseñaba más antes, like acomídate. And that's something that my mom was really big. She goes, if you go to somebody's house, you better, and the mom, if your friend is told to wash dishes, you better start washing dishes too. I'm sorry, I'm going to put this in because I guess I disconnected it. And so that's something that's like missing, like no se acomiden. And that's what I tell my kids. Hey, if I come home with food, I am not putting nothing away. If I come home with food, you guys are putting everything away and you're making sure that there's no dishes in the sink and that everything is in the trash.
It's just a routine that everybody has.
Pero no, that's no se enseña.
And they don't teach them consequences anymore. For every bad action, there's a consequence, whether it be good or bad. You do good, there's a good consequence. There's bad, And it's the same thing throughout life. And I feel like that's one of the constant things that I, even now, that I have my nephews, that they go a lot with me. And, that's one thing that I try to teach them. And thankfully, they're very good kids. Because they've learned to be working, especially Audrey, being 15, knows how to drive tractors. He knows how to drive.
He's such a good kid.
He is. He's just been going through things, but he still has a good heart.
And I just love that you give all of them, even though it's like Audrey, your nephew, or whether it's Sophia or whoever it is, that you give them the space to be them. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I tell my kids too. I'm like, hey, she's having a bad day. Like, let her be. Let her do her thing. Like, that's my thing. I'm like, let him do his thing. He's having a bad day. So just let him do his thing. Like, don't suppress him. Don't question him. You just let him be.
Well, because we have bad days as well. Why can't they have a bad day? Mm-hmm. Why can only as grown-ups we only say like, no? And they can't. And it's always at you're having a bad day or what?
And the more strict we are, the more they hide from us, even those bad days.
Exactly.
That's like a fear. I'm like, no, I want to know everything. Even if you're super scared, like, I want to know, because at the end of the day, I'm not on your side. I'm just, here to help support you and create balance in your reality. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you. Like always.
So much. I love you too. You're the best.
Thank you.
Stay tuned for more Table Talk, and make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Google, YouTube, and make sure you leave us a review if you haven't already. Thank you for tuning in with Miss Martha on the table. She's been a client here at Madera for going on 6 years, and these talks have always been intense, and so I'm grateful for my Martha that she agreed to come on and record with us this amazing conversation, especially the tough ones, the conversations that we go through as parents and as kids, and all the things, all the struggles that are just real. And so we thank you for listening, and love you. God bless you. Bye.